Artlist.io.
Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop.
Music licensing reimagined.
I fucked up this hustle, day we hustle, but the oh my I fucked up this hustle, day we hustle, but the oh my Put my guns, know that they fly, know that they ride or die.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Boys are back.
We're here.
We're so back.
We're trying.
Yeah, we are trying. Jared, we take these little breaks in between shows, and I kind of love it because we just come back with so much information. We're kind of in the trenches with some of those brokers.
Yeah.
Whether it's on sales calls, trying to cover a load.
Yep.
This weird has been really weird of a week as far as covering loads, DOT week, fuel. Rates are kind of crazy, you know what I mean? So lots to talk about and kind of break down. What's up, Chief Ray Holler? I know, a long time no see, man. Good to see you.
What's
Good to
up?
see you.
What is up?
What's going on in your world? How's the road? Tell us a little about what's going on there.
Yeah, I would love to hear how you. Obviously, you guys have a fuel table and do those things, so that helps your cause. But how are things going? I love that it keeps changing in the background. It's kind of freaking me out. It's George from
What's up,
GTZ.
George?
What's going on? Did you get a new? Handle? What's going on, brother? How you been? Checking in on a damn week, dude.
Yeah,
it's
bro.
been honestly, like, I don't know about you guys. I feel like this whole month has been like a full moon. You know what I mean? Like, we were just sitting here going, "Is this a full moon month?" The whole damn month's like a full moon. Like, I'm like, what are we doing? Busier than a billy goat in a briar patch. Oh man! I tell you what, I haven't seen a good briar patch. We have the worst drought going on in Nebraska. Good morning. What's up? It's good to see you guys. Always a pleasure to be on. Yeah, I tell you what, we had the opportunity this week to help some brokers with sourcing. Obviously, sourcing is becoming so challenging.
Yeah.
And eCarrierCheck's pretty much the most probably one of the best sourcing platforms in, I'd say, the universe. I don't know of any trucks around on Mars, so we'll go with it.
Yeah.
But if you look at Craig Fuller's thing, he posted this yesterday. This is that cat from Freight Waves. Really has a lot going on. He says Road Check Week has resulted in 32% of trucks being flagged as unsafe and put out of service. That's a huge number. If this trend holds through the end of the week, it'll be the biggest crackdown in history. And it's showing the rate data. Daily spot rates have surged to $3.50 a mile. Obviously, a huge Supreme Court ruling yesterday.
Yeah.
With now brokers being liable for, potentially being held liable for making the decisions of hiring that specific carrier. So there's so much going on in the news right now that it's just wild. I don't know where I don't even know where you want to start.
Well, let's start with the. You talked about how brokers are probably going to be liable for the people they hire, right? If something were to happen on the road, what are brokers going to start? What are you going to see brokers start doing now to protect themselves?
Honestly,
What should they be doing?
This is going to be an interesting one because you're going to see somebody's going to be hung up to dry here at some point. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see carriers going down a road of vetting wholeheartedly differently. Like, you got Go Highway, you've got some platforms that are helping. Right. You've got eCarrierCheck. We obviously have a vetting aspect of things. You've got Carrier Sure, that Cassandra gal's good. There's a host of companies out there that have taken the time to go, these carriers are good, these carriers are bad, or these carriers are just coming into the market. Yeah. And I think it's going to become, this is going to be the new $5. How are you vetting your carriers? Right. You know what I mean? What are you doing to protect yourself? And I think, I've had the opportunity to go through some crazy situations when I was with a brokerage that hired a carrier. Carrier ended up getting in a pretty bad accident, and it ended up going through legal aspects of things, right? And unfortunately, luckily, unfortunately, somebody did, get hurt fairly badly.
Right.
But that broker had their act together. They had a wonderful vetting process, a way to, be able to see what the carrier looked like at that particular time. And so it's definitely, this is going to be an interesting, kind of the next 12 months swing of what other technology is going to come because of that decision.
When something like that happens, I know you just mentioned you kind of been through this with a driver, someone got hurt. What kind of information should you, if you were to go through the situation today, if you were a broker, right? What documentation, what process do you have to have ready to go? Because they're going to come talking to you or knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, what happened?"
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think number one is you got to have, a well documented plan of, here's every time I get a carrier, every time I hire a carrier, here's what I have to do.
Here's what I look at, and
here's my carrier broker agreement. Here's the insurance. Here's the vetting platform I'm using. I think it's important that you're using something, time stamping things like that, so that you can show at that particular time, hey, we thought that they were safe.
Right.
Double brokering obviously is a big issue. It's a huge issue in Canada. I mean, it gets outsourced multiple times in that regards. But in the U.S., I think with this coming down the pike, boy, I tell you what, brokers really need to make sure they've got their I's dotted, T's crossed, and start to make sure they're following good processes when it comes to hiring people. Things happen, accidents happen, but that's one of those things.
Yeah. Just had the best nursery season since 2020. At this point, we're about 2/3 of the last year's gross and still have a month until the halfway point. That's awesome.
Dude, Cheap Freight Hauler, what is up, brother? Man, it's good to see you. Jerome Jones, what's going on, man? Best one inspection carrier I know in the country. How are you, man? It's good to see you. I don't know about you, Jerome, but if you're not getting a raise today, bump your rate right now. Whoever you're calling to get a load, just go bump your rate. It doesn't matter. It's wild to see carriers. Somebody said up here, I think it was George, he said 12,000 from Northern Cali to Chicago reefers. I mean, I've seen some crazy freight bills come through. I think the other issue is too, obviously, we had the big Supreme Court thing. You'll see a lot of lawyers, watch, I can't remember his name. You got Cassandra, and then you got the other gentleman, the armchair lawyer.
Yeah, I can't remember.
The guy with the glasses. He'll start pumping out some info, and it's good to tune into those guys.
Right.
You know what I mean, and make sure that you know what's going on. We can start now. Tire Killer's in the building.
What's up, brother? Good to see you.
What's going on? Yeah, I love it.
Oh, I love it too.
So I think it's important that brokers are doing that.
I can't buy an inspection.
I can't buy an inspection. I get it. I think what's more important than anything is really being that guy as a broker that just niches out in certain areas. I think this is wildly important. The reason why is that you can go back to the same group of carriers, the same mix of carriers. I think where people are going to get themselves in trouble is a little bit of the spot market and using different carriers, right? And so when you can go back and say, you know what, I kill this specific lane and here's what I'm looking for and this is what I'm doing. If you're going to be in the spot market, the exposure is there. As long as you know what you're doing when it comes to vetting, when it comes to finding the right carriers, things like that, that's wildly important. But boy, I tell you what, I think people really need to niche down and start building more and more relationships. Because if you haven't, it's already over.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're in a tough period where carriers are already busy. They're making money. Look at all these comments.
Right.
And they don't need necessarily a new relationship with another broker. Maybe a direct shipper they'd probably listen to. But right now, I think, carriers have the option to, kind of move the needle on their own right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Actually, I want to thank you guys about getting hazmat. That has helped me a lot. And now I have 2 inspections.
Let's go.
Hey, y'all. I love that. All right. Now Jerome Jones is the best 2 inspection guy I've ever met. I hope you're getting paid too, brother. Actually, you know what? Oddly enough, I got a buddy. I don't know what you're running right now, but if you can get your way down to Missouri next week, I've got a firework load that needs to get up to Nebraska. I got a buddy that owns a fireworks store and loves to friggin' use a couple local guys that we know. So we gotta get a handle on that multi-stop. I think it stops in Joplin and Pittsburgh and then out to Nebraska. So,
No kidding.
so if you're in the area, brother, hook us up.
Heck yeah. Let's see. Let me see.
If you're even in New Jersey, jump on our Route 1 and 9 between Linden and Woodbridge. All right. If you're even in the New Jersey area, I love that.
Yeah. You kind of, talked about just growing more relationships and, having that carrier, just a better relationship with carriers. We're at
Yeah.
that point where you need to get on something like
Mhm.
eCarrierCheck and start calling and building those relationships. And, and I think that's super helpful too when you're on your sales calls talking to shippers, because obviously I think, the calls that we were on last week and earlier this week, the shipper kept touching on fuel, right?
Mhm.
And then you talk about, be on the spot market. People are they're kind of bumping that rate up a lot. If you have that carrier that you can kind of go to weekly, and and still obviously their fuel rate's going to be up, but I feel like they're more competitive than obviously than the spot market. So if you're not on any carrier check trying to like grow that relationship and have a conversation with shippers,
Mhm.
like you said, now's the time to talk to them about, hey, here's what I use to find carriers, here's where their fuel's at. I can get quotes off the load board, but here's my guys.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between, it's a big range, you know what I mean, in a race.
100%.
It's crazy. You could post a load on the load board and the guy say, yeah, I'm going to be at this rate, 3,000. Well, my other guy said you do it for 2.
Right.
I mean, the guy's trying to make money. I understand it fuels up, but it's just something different about the guys that you have a connection with.
Oh.
And I think shippers want to see that right now and know that, hey, you got guys that you can call instead of posting.
Mhm.
Obviously, this week was one of those weeks where the phones aren't ringing. People are posting loads for next week because
Yeah.
they can't get it covered this
Yeah.
week, or it's hard to just get anything covered, I think, at this point. But
It's been brutal week.
but on some of those calls that you've had with brokers, what are you hearing that's working for them, whether it's on their sales calls, when they talk with fuel, what are they doing to connect with the carriers a little bit better?
Yeah, I think I got 2 thoughts here, and I want to answer it from a carrier's perspective and a broker's perspective, because obviously we have some carriers on, and I want to help these cats out.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of carriers. Number one, if you're a broker right now, especially too, nobody's even talking about this yet because it just happened yesterday. Yes, brokers are liable. How does that make the shippers now feel? Are they going to become liable for the brokers that they're hiring?
Mhm.
And there's some interesting things there, right? Right now, in the here and now, if you're a broker and you're calling shippers, they want to hear, I have a truck in hand. I build a relationship right here, right? I think that's so important.
Mhm.
Okay. That's where you're going to stand out.
Right.
Everyone's going to have high rates right now.
Mhm.
So it's just a matter of, I'm a broker. I stand behind what I do. I'm not going to give you my rate may be a little higher. I'm not giving this load back to you.
Right.
Because now really what we're trying to build is more trust with brokers to shippers is a trust factor, right?
Mhm.
And so you're really trying to break that barrier down of trust. We talked to some shippers this week. Everyone was open to a conversation. Everyone was trying to find a truck.
Mhm.
And you could tell in some particular cases for those shippers that were a little bit smaller, they were more willing to, hey, I don't know this guy, but let's go see if he can make this happen or work, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you're a carrier, right? Do you remember the girl when you're in 10th grade and she was a hot senior and you're like, man, I wish I had the balls to friggin' go talk to her. Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
We've got the drinking juice out right now, because if you're a carrier
Mhm.
and you're not talking to the hottest girl in school, you're missing the boat. Okay. I tell you what, honestly, like I feel like carriers right now have the ability to do some crazy stuff.
Oh, for sure.
If you're a broker, don't try to sell on price, sell on capacity if you have it. Yeah, this is it. Exactly. You're selling on trust and service that you will show up and do your friggin' job. 100%. Jeff Dickinson, what is going on? There's more to this, guys. Oh, there is. There's so much more to this.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if I didn't have, a couple extra cups of coffee in me, I could go for a little while without a bathroom break. But Jeff, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how your week was. Jeff obviously uses a lot of his own guys. DOT week was a mess. Obviously, there's a lot going on with what Jeff is working on in the double brokering space, and then the Supreme Court ruling yesterday. Whew, honestly, it'll just be interesting to hear Jeff. We should probably just have him on at some point in the next month just to kind of get his perspective, because I always like hearing what he has to say. But if you're a carrier right now, honestly, and there's a hot girl that you wanted to talk to for the last 20 years, man, you friggin' call her. Because right now you're like, hey, I got a truck and here's the lanes I like. Do you have anything that works for me? Because people are willing to talk right now, especially if you're a truck, especially if you're fair, especially if you show up with clean equipment and you can speak cleanly, properly. English is so important. How many people did we talk to this week that when we were helping for sourcing and we couldn't understand it? That's an issue.
And then you had I believe was the receiver, the shipper, the frustration on their end.
100%.
Yeah.
it just makes you, as a broker, if you're hiring that guy that can't speak English, as a broker, that just reflects on the shipper. It just all comes down the string. You know what I mean? So then the shipper's hearing it from their customer that they, this broker sent in this carrier. He couldn't understand anything, didn't know where to go. It was frustrating to talk to him. It's already challenging. It's already challenging, right? Trucking's tough, but we don't need to add any more layers of friction.
I mean, that tells you something too. It's more than just getting this from A to B. It's getting it from, being respectful at A. Being polite, whatever, wearing the right equipment. For God's sake, don't wear sandals to a pickup place, right? And then just getting to the receiver and again being polite. I had a broker last week that he hired two guys. I don't think they spoke very good English, but they were being just rude to the receiver. Bad mouthing them. It's just like that's a bad look on that broker. And that broker called the carrier and said, "Hey, here's what happened. I'm not going to use you guys again. It's a bad look on me." You know what I mean? So it's like it's more than just getting from A to B. It's being obviously safely, but being respectful at both ends and just showing up, like you said, show up on time, communicating well. It's just so much more to it.
100%. There's so much more to it. Even like what Jeff says, there's more to come on this. 100%. It's going to be a wild windfall of information over the next few months with the Supreme Court thing. The non-domiciled CDL rule has also contributed to capacity crunch. 100%. Yeah. This is George, right? I think that's George, isn't it? George. I think so. I'm pretty sure it is. But I honestly, I feel like, it's George. Honestly, George, I'd be interested because you're, in a position where you're moving. He mentioned the reefer rate earlier. How much of that from the non-domiciled side did you see in the reefer space? Usually you saw a lot of people that that aren't speaking English. They're usually in the vans. They're in the reefers, things like that. And so it's definitely one of those things that I bet he saw a hard crunch that it's tough to deal. Jeff says, as an example, Mr. Broker, what made you choose that carrier? I used XYZ vetting tool, and it said the carrier was approved. See where I'm going with this and what's going to happen. The other windfall too is, now is the shipper responsible? And, there's some craziness to this whole thing, and we'll keep hearing it. I think it's Matthew Marcus or something like that, the armchair lawyer. It'll be interesting to get his perspective and Cassandra's perspective, as actual lawyers. Jeff, this definitely is going to be an interesting time to be involved in this space. So what did Chief Farrell? I was waiting for my direct shipper that dropped me when a broker cut the rate by 40% to call me back. I know this time it's not about the relationship. So I was waiting for my direct shipper to drop me. So they did call back. Honestly, the nice thing too, outside of the ego aspect of, I'm not dealing with him, he dropped me. Outside of that aspect of things, usually when you go through a trauma-built time period with a shipper, man, they become a much longer shipper, a much longer relationship shipper than normal. And so they remember that scar and they're like, I need to protect this relationship more. They understand what it is. So to a certain extent, egotistically, you could just say, screw that guy. You know what I mean? At the same time, you could go, I'm here, but I'm not going to be here if you drop me again.
Right.
You know,
We almost need to have a show on like what shippers need to do better. If I was a shipper and I had someone like, Chief Rahal or Holland for me, great guy. You're having a conversation. Hey man, is there any way we can work on these rates? Obviously,
Right.
These guys have their rates, the carriers have their rates and where they need to be at. But as a shipper, if you have a good guy like Chief Rahal, you should have that conversation, sit down with them before just dropping something, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like maybe some one-off guy, I get it, but like when it's a relationship, doing great work.
Yeah.
I feel like shippers need to probably do better at just, hey, let's talk about the rate where we're at.
Yeah.
I know fuel's up. Well, how can we meet? How can we kind of just both win-win here, right? So maybe shippers need a little bit better on that too.
Yeah,
with their good guys.
The yo-yo effect that we've seen, it was a moment ago for you carriers. It was just a moment ago that you like imagine a cartoon and a guy dragging himself through a desert just trying to get a drink.
Right.
That was every carrier in this country, and that was just a moment ago.
Yeah.
Right? Their costs were raising, inflation was going up, insurance was challenging, tires is challenging. Who knows? There was so much going on, and those carriers were just kind of going, I can't operate for this. I can't operate for this. Right. And a lot of carriers were like, I'll make it work. Give me some cash. It's hard to control that free market of doing those things. So shippers are responsible for saving money.
Yeah.
But now with this ruling, how will that shipper look at going, yeah, you know what? My cost of goods sold is going to increase by 6%. But you know what? I feel confident because I'm going to hire carriers and brokers that know what the hell they're doing or that have done this. I think something that's probably even more unique, Jeff, is, trying to, how do you vet brokers, outside of credit, right? How do you vet? There's such an interesting layer in there. So it's just an interesting piece that'll be continued to dissect. But if you've got a carrier or a shipper, boy, I tell you what, start having those conversations. What are you doing with it and how are you doing it? So, well, they really didn't drop me. I was told I've got this from CHR. If you can match it, you can keep hauling. Yeah, that's God. I hate, damn that line. Friggin', you've used that line too. I'm sorry. But I'm glad that you're still hauling for them. I think that's you just got to keep relationships close. Right. I think this industry is such an interesting industry where people are trying to automate things, people are trying to AI everything and all this stuff. And really, no matter what, humans need humans, and the connection is still a necessary thing.
Right.
Now, could you use some AI and some automation functions to connect you with people? Sure, absolutely. Maybe it'll give you a bigger reach, a bigger net,
right.
Or maybe it'll clean up the way you bill or things like that. But humans need humans, and we got to continue to preach that. So, number 8 was 1440 for almost 900 miles. I'm sure it's profitable lane for CHR now, right now. Yeah, that's a tough. I mean, is it out of Florida or something? Why are you getting such a cheap rate? It's got to be out of Florida, right? Got to be out of Florida.
Yeah,
got to be.
Well, Jared, I really appreciated the chat today. Obviously, there's been a lot going on the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months. We're in a weird time right now.
Yep.
So for those out there kind of watching, let us know how we can help you, whatever it is. We're hopping on calls with brokers daily. I'm just trying to help them, whether it's find that next carrier, that next shipper. Whatever it may be. So just let us know how we can support you. Jared, any closing thoughts?
Honestly, right now, if you're a carrier, go out and call that shipper that you've been wanting for 10 years. There's never been a better time as a carrier to go out and try to find that. If you think, well, I'm stuck right now, I kind of got to keep doing these loads. Maybe not. Just pick up the phone and find out what they got going on. You never know what that conversation is going to sound like. As a broker, start trying to understand how to protect yourself. Start listening to the lawyers, the different shows that are out there. I think that's wildly important. Obviously, we're not lawyers in that regards. We're just a couple guys that are just grinding, selling some software. And well, honestly, we'll help you find some of the safest carriers out there, I think. What did he say? I love this guy. This is the guy with Cardinal. What's his cat's name? I can't remember off the top of my head. Or he's not with Cardinal. I think they got bought out. Too many brokers treating carriers like a commodity. Relationships are still important. If the shipper wants cheap, that's what they get. And I still think, honestly, I think that he kind of hit it on the head here. find the shippers that work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You may end up finding out that the hot girl that you've been wanting for 10 years is actually a bitch. I'm just saying, right? Not every shipper makes sense. And I love this because you can be picky and choosy right now.
Yeah.
Right? He's with Ryder, right? Were you with Cardinal before? I thought he was with Cardinal. Either way, I hope everyone has an awesome friggin' start to the, this graduation season. If you aren't getting a graduation reception in right now, you're missing out. I got one tomorrow. I'm going to smash through some enchiladas. I'm super jacked about it.
I might have to be there.
A guy that I was talking to this week, he's having a crawfish boil.
Heck yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds
That's
so
awesome.
good. He was down in Louisiana. Cool dude. But I hope everyone has a safe weekend, has an incredible time. You guys ever need anything, hit us up, eCarrierCheck.com.